Schools act, the business is harassed. Japan suffers Chinese backlash over Fukushima release. People walk into an area of Japanese restaurants past a sign reading "Suspend the sale of the all fish product imported from Japan" in Beijing on August 27, 2023. Tokyo CNN. Wave of online harassment and betrayal directed at Japanese people following the release of treated radioactive wastewater from Fukushima has spent tensions between Japan and China soaring, prompting Tokyo to summon the Chinese ambassador. China's heavily censored internet exploded in outrage from after Japan officially began releasing the wastewater on Thursday. Several videos on social media show Chinese callers dialing the numbers of Japanese businesses and institutions, then shouting into the phone, why do you release the nuclear polluted water to the ocean? The comments below the videos are full of users sharing numbers to call and encouraging each other. I just called as well, the one person wrote. The mayor of Fukushima, Hiroshi Kohata, said on Saturday the city's town hall alone had received about 200 such harassment calls in 2 days. Many other locations around the city have received similar calls, he said, including elementary and junior high schools, restaurants, hotels, and inns. Many of them are from plus 86, China's country code, and are in Chinese. He added in the Facebook post, in addition to the damage caused by the nuclear accident, Fukushima is also burdened with the aftermath. He demanded that the government be informed of this situation as soon as possible and take action. One seafood market in Fukushima Prefecture received dozens of calls from Chinese numbers on Friday, according to Japanese public broadcaster NHK. Japan's foreign ministry said on Monday it had summoned the Chinese ambassador over the harassment calls, saying the incidents are extremely regrettable and worrisome. It argued Beijing to take appropriate measures immediately to prevent the situation from escalating and to avoid spreading inaccurate information about the wastewater release. It's not just the businesses inside Japan being targeted. Japanese institutions in China have also been harassed, said the foreign ministry, arguing Beijing to ensure the safety of Japanese residents in China and Japanese diplomatic missions in China. A stone was thrown into the grounds of the Japanese school in Qingdao in China's Shandong province on Thursday when the release began, according to NHK. The next day, several eggs are thrown at a Japanese school in Suzhou in China's Jiangsu province. No children went hurt in either case, and the schools have since stepped up their security, NHK reported. The report didn't identify the perpetrators or say whether they were motivated by the concerns over Fukushima, but incidents have nevertheless contributed to the fear and anxiety among Japanese residents in China. On Thursday, as the wastewater release began, the Chinese embassy in China issued a warning to Japanese living in the country, warning them not to speak Japanese loudly when out in public and to be cautious in your speech and behavior. The embassy in Beijing have ramped up security and deployed more personnel around the building, NHK reported. The security officials in front of the Japanese embassy in Beijing, China on August 26, 2023. China's response, however, have been less than sympathetic. On Monday, the Chinese embassy in Japan released a statement condemning the release once again, accusing Tokyo of causing unpredictable harm to human and marine health, denying that it had spread any misinformation and claiming that it too had received harassment calls, but from Japanese numbers. In an echo of Japan's embassy's statement, it argued Tokyo to protect the safety of Chinese residents in Japan. When asked what measures China would take to address the harassment, the spokesperson for the Chinese Foreign Ministry said China has always protected the safety and the lawful interests of foreign nationals in China according to law. Sushi diplomacy. The release of treated radioactive water from Fukushima prompted a swift and angry response from Chinese authorities, who on Thursday announced a ban on all seafood imports from Japan. Many social media users have gone a step further by advocating a broader boycott of Japanese products. On Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok, users have circulated the list of Japanese brands ranging from cosmetics to food and beverages and urged people not to buy their product. But some observers outside China have said the explosive backlash in the country may be more politically driven than scientifically informed, and accused Beijing of the double standard. Many countries, including China, release treated radioactive water from their own nuclear plant, sometimes at higher concentration than in Fukushima. This fact, however, is missing from online discussions in China. The few voices trying to explain the science behind the discharge have been censored and scrubbed from social media. Contamination is scientifically not that serious, and China's own water release and other countries' release water releases are much more concentrated than the Japanese case, said Yasuhiro Masuda, the professor of international politics at the University of Tokyo's Institute for Advanced Studies on Asia. He added that the discharge isn't a strategically important issue to China. The way national security is so the fuel may instead be an attempt by Beijing to gain political leverage. However, he said that the social media attacks and public sentiment had ballooned beyond the authorities' control, becoming an all-out bashing of Japan. Some supporters have taken to eating regional seafood in a show of solidarity. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and Prime Minister Han Duck-soo ate a seafood lunch on Monday, the presidential office said, adding that the sashimi and grilled mackerel are served for lunch at the office cafeteria. Photos released by the office show government workers and media personnel feasting on seafood, though there were no such images of Yoon and Han. Tokyo Governor Yuriko Koike talked into a lunch of raw fish from Fukushima on Friday, a day after the discharge began, said the official from the metropolitan government, adding that it was to show support for the reconstruction of the damaged Tohoku region after the 2011 disaster. The Tokyo metropolitan government served the seafood from Fukushima in its staff cafeteria last week, with a menu featuring items such as fried sardines and grilled mackerel. Other prefectures are considering similar programs, with the Osaka governor proposing Fukushima seafood to serve at all government cafeterias. The U.S. ambassador to Japan, Lam Emanuel, is expected to visit a city in Fukushima this week, where he plans to eat locally caught fish to show support for the wastewater release, the U.S. embassy official told CNN. The fractious relationship. The tensions between China and Japan come against the backdrop of their historically fractious relationship which dates back beyond World War II and includes a variety of maritime territorial disputes. Chinese calls for boycotts of Japan are relatively frequent, breaking out whenever old grievances rear their heads or territorial dispute flare, experts say. In 2012, trade relations sunk to a low point when Japan nationalized a group of islands in the East China Sea claimed by both Tokyo and Beijing, fueling violent anti-Japanese protests across the cities in China. The boycott turned into violent attacks against Japanese-owned or branded factories in China, as well as automakers and home appliance retailers. There are similarities between the situation now and 2012, saying Matsuda, including anger and dissatisfaction among the Chinese public, who face a high unemployment rate, rising cost of living, and slowing economic growth following the pandemic. The Fukushima issue could simply be a trigger to release these frustration, he said. However, he thought the current controversy were unlikely to spiral into the kinds of attacks and open street protests seen in 2012. Still, the bilateral relationship looks to be under strain again, with China asking the head of the Japanese political party to postpone his planned visit this week. The party had hoped to meet Chinese leader Xi Jinping and hand over a personal letter from Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, Reuters reported, but Chinese authorities told the party on Saturday that the timing is not appropriate considering the current situation of Japan-China relations. Barry Wang, Kathleen Magrano, and Nectar Khan contributed reporting.